The symbolism of the revolutionary Monkey D. Dragon. What's good, y'all? UW back here again, here in 2022. Let's get it. I was wondering what my next video would be. I have a lot of ideas, and it came to me the morning, the time of this recording. Ever since Dragon's first introduction in Logtown, he's been a very fascinating character to say the least. And a mixture with his infrequent appearances throughout the years, even to this day. There's very few characters that have appeared as infrequently as he has. An uncertainty of his motive behind why he's doing everything that he's doing. The vibe that he doesn't honestly feel like he even belongs in the series of One Piece most of the time. And even like, what is his end goal? He says that, eventually he wants a war with the Celestial Dragons. It doesn't seem like he wants to rid himself or rid the world of the world government, even though there's corruption involved with it. Is Dragon actually a force for good? Is he simply a selfish bastard on the low who, like many dictators in our world, disguise himself as, benevolent, as a revolutionary, but truly, once they came into power, once they took over the reins or their group took over, it wasn't much better and sometimes even worse than the previous regime, right? Is he a force that, in his own way thrives off the chaos? What happens when his vision comes to play, if it does come to play? Will he eventually fight his own son, Straw Hat Monkey D. Luffy, Mugiwara, based on ideological differences before inevitably, they either walk down a similar path or they unite forces? You know, there are many, many questions in others that we can get into, but it begs the question, why did Oda even come up with this character? And then it dawned on me that there are layers upon layers. He is easily the deepest character besides Luffy himself that Oda could have came up with. Luffy, Oda has been slowly building this up. Luffy is truly a pirate, without question. Just like Shanks is truly a pirate and Goldie Roger truly pirates. It just took Oda, you know, slow cooking and slow training. What the hell is Dragon doing in a pirate manga? Now, you can go from the political aspect, if you go with me and understand the golden age of piracy in the Caribbean, you can go into the political aspect. You can even go that, the golden age pirates can do an entirely different video or a precursor to modern anarchism, for example. But even still, Dragon, even for me who's heavily invested in understanding history, literature, you know, politics, sociology, you name it, right? Cultures, biology. Dragon doesn't make sense. And I would say that is the entire purpose of his character. It's not meant to make sense. And I don't mean in the sense of it's not meant to make any sense at the end of the day. What I mean is it's iconoclastic. It literally has you question everything. If you think deeply about the series, and the series already has you questioning everything, he's like a character almost not even from Hunter x Hunter, even beyond that. Because even with Hunter x Hunter, a character like Dragon would still have you going, what the hell? Even a series like Berserk, a character like Dragon would be like, what the hell? It's almost as if Oda was like, let me let me introduce one more curveball and one more element to One Piece that will literally force me to go to the ends of my creativity in a grounded yet bombastic way. Because we know Oda loves his grandiose vision, right? And I know fans of Dragon will probably love this video. There's a reason I'm giving this introduction the due service that is due. Because even for me, even for me, who, I looked at the importance of the Yonko, of a lot of characters, right? I don't think it was until Wano in Wano being wrapped up that I really see in Luffy, by his very nature being a freedom fighter, by his very nature being a god, really understood how in depth Oda was really going with this character of Dragon. I knew he was deep. I knew he was important. But damn, Oda, if my conclusions on what I'm understanding about his character are true, damn, Oda. So starting off, the Enigma. The Enigma. It's almost like a DC. It's almost like he's a DC Marvel character mixed with a political commentary, a satirical character on the world. But yet you can say, wait a second, we already have other characters like that in the world of One Piece. So what gives? Why do you need to go to the extra element? We'll get further into other aspects of the symbolism, but the Enigma. There are some people in the world who are just strange. They're eccentric. If you go, I mentioned DC Marvel, Dr. Stephen Strange. Okay. Even though we get an explanation, his very existence, adult Franklin Richards' existence, the Hulk in a lot of ways, are just anomalies. You can't really marry them, even by the laws in Marvel. They're just anomalies. And some could maybe even throw in the Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff. In DC Comics, you have the Phantom Stranger. You have dudes like The Question, Hellblazer John Constantine, that are just like, okay, they exist and they're just there. Swamp Thing. And it's like, yeah, folks can say, but they have an explanation for their existence. Sure, but they're strange. They're mysterious. There is something about them that goes deeper than what is being told. And that's the fascinating thing about life, isn't it? That's the fascinating thing about reality. It's like black holes in our own universe. What really are they? We have no idea. And we may never know. And that's the beauty, isn't it? And from that enigma, you get very interesting conclusions that are drawn to if you're talking about an individual. If you could reference a movie, the Joker in The Dark Knight was an enigma. Even Alfred was wrong about him. Some men just want to watch the world burn. But did he really, though? Was the Joker, that is maybe partially true. That is one aspect. But the Joker even said, he's like, you could say he's an agent of chaos. But is that all to him? There's so many layers. And in DC Comics, I could add in the Joker as well. The Joker is definitely in that vein where it's just like, he just exists, bro. And it's just mystery after mystery. And you would have to do a deep dive psychologically to understand him. But it's the fact of his existence as to why I'm putting this. And I always felt a sense he's the most enigmatic character throughout the entire series. Even with Dracula, Hawkeye's Mihawk, we get a vibe, a sense of his character. Redhead Shingsu, we got a sense of his character. Kaido, we got a sense of his character. Um, we know much about Roger, but we had a sense of his character. This dude, Dragon, is just something else entirely. But we move on. Number two, the divine lineage, the reject. All right, so y'all, if you've been paying attention to recent videos I've done, and I've talked about Luffy being a god. I'm hammering that point home for a reason, right? So whether you want to go by the Garp just straight up being, Dragon's father, or you want to say he's adopted, you want to say he's the son of Roxy Zebek, I happen to like that theory a hell of a lot. You want to say he's the son of a celestial dragon, you want to say, hell, he's the son of a Skypian, just somehow without the wings. I don't know how hybrids work. Whatever your preference, and there's probably other legitimate speculation because Oda hasn't given us jack. All right? Oda has not given us anything. So, regardless, whatever path, whatever lineage he actually is, and still, I don't know. Luffy must take after his mom because I don't know how the hell you can marry that. He's Luffy's dad. I'll accept that he is, but there's something else going on in the pot. Is all I'm saying in that genetic pool. And even if he's Garp's son, what the hell? He does not look like them. And from his appearance, his demeanor, as well as the fact of his actions in the world, he is the reject by all stretches of the imagination. Even the fact that he's the world's most dangerous man, the revolutionary Monkey D. Dragon. He's not a pirate, he's not a bounty hunter, he's not a marine, and more. He's a revolutionary. It goes back to his enigmatic existence. He is something that is an anomaly of the world. And the fact of his very existence, I think, causes the Gorosei to shiver. To my point earlier, when you have an enigmatic existence, like when you look at the Yonko, even Luffy, you can account or teach, right? You can account for things like that, Rising. You can account for a Princess Vivi, a Princess Shirahoshi, a Momonosuke, right? You can account for things. You can account for a Kozuki Odin, a Gold D. Roger, a Dark King Silver's Rayleigh, a Dracula Hawkeye's Mihawk, and a Shanks even. An Edward Newgate, Whitebeard, an Edward Weevil, right? You can account for these, a Sir Crocodile, a Doflamingo. But something like Dragon, you cannot account for because it's outside of everything, the scope of what is normal, what the chessboard, what the checkers board, what the go board would indicate. He's the ultimate wild card. He's the reject of the system that comes back to haunt the system. He's not even a Neo, if you understand the Matrix. He's something else entirely. It's almost as if, that's why I said from the beginning, like he's from some other series altogether. And that's what I'm saying, the beauty of Oda's writing in that. Number 3, the winds of change. Now, if you're a Dragon fan or have seen any videos about Dragon, I had to address this. This is not original to me, obviously. Dragon may have the wind Logia, or he may be a mythical Zoan, or whatever the case may be, right? I'd say just as Conqueror's Hockey. Regardless, you've heard the theme of wind, 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 the winds of change about him. And I'm not even going to try to push back against it. I'm not even going to try to fight it. That's about the best we got. It's about the deepest we got for most people. But what do the winds of change actually represent? What does wind represent? Right? Every force of nature, fire, water, wind, light, dark, and more, we can go into, metal, earth, wood, all these aspects, right? We can go into what they symbolize in another video, but let's look at this, right? The winds of change. Wind can be very destructive if you know about hurricanes, monsoons, cyclones, tornadoes, etc., right? Wind also blows sails. It's a directional force. It's a powerful, potent force. It can also be a gentle breeze. But the winds of change seems to spark fear. It seems to be immediate. But time out. Immediacy. Let's look at each of those aspects, right? Destructive. Is dragon actually destructive? Let's really contemplate that. Is he actually destructive? Is he actually the winds of change? Because if you were to make that point, you could say that Luffy and Teach are more of the winds of change than Dragon is. He's not a gentle breeze. He's obviously made waves. Is he directing the world? Again, Luffy and other characters are more directly navigating the world's trajectory than Dragon is. So what gives? And is he immediate? No, he's been going for like 20 years. So once again, the enigmatic force, the winds of change that he's supposed to symbolize, what is Oda saying here? That maybe our understanding of wind, oh, he's elusive, he's good, you can go with that. But his existence is known. He's not a complete ghost. His lineage is known. So it gives. Everything that it would historically and culturally make you think what wind represents, and you could probably think of other aspects as well. Dragon almost is seemingly the antithesis of that. So let's go deeper with the symbolism, right? The types of dragons, number 4. So there are actually 4 types of dragons from the cardinal directions, okay? So there's obviously north, south, east, and west, right? Now the eastern dragon is Kaido. He's the Jade Emperor. And it's interesting about Kaido and what he actually represents, okay, as opposed to the other ones. People would think that Kaido is this destructive force. No, the Oriental Eastern Dragon is not a destructive force. He was called the Wisdom King for a reason in Wano. That's not propaganda. Kaido, as we've seen throughout his fight with Luffy, throughout his fight with the Red Scabbards, throughout his fight with his daughter Yamato, throughout his fight, you know, throughout his various fights, throughout his dealings with Linlin, Kaido's actually very, very deep. Kaido, if you will, represents not the status quo, he wants change. But Kaido represents, believe it or not, consistency. Consistency. So you could say, how does he represent consistency? Listen to the things Kaido talks about. He talks about war. He talks about, you know, betrayal. He talks about being the gatekeeper. If we got a sense that he was the gatekeeper, being the gatekeeper for that, the one who is going to bring change. He talked about, telling his daughter, you are ignorant of history. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You have no clue what's really at stake here, right? He talked about bringing change, but at the same time, we saw Kaido stagnant for practically 25 years, producing weapons, working with the world government in war. So Kaido, in being the Jade Emperor and the consistency of the matter, it's not that he's trying to upkeep the system, but it's just that he embodies the system itself. It's not that you can say that he's a product of the system. I would say he was more so affected by the system, but Kaido himself represents, it's just the way things are presently. That's why I say he's inconsistent. Kaido is the present. That's why Luffy had to overcome him when he did. That's why now Luffy's awakening. See, Luffy's awakening is very symbolic to the changing of the tides, to the changing of the guard. What the Joker's throne wars, symbolize is that now the system, that's all out of the way. All that's gone. Kaido had to be taken down. Doflamingo as the underworld broker, as the the stabilizing factor, that's gone. Now you have to take out the stabilizing force, the consistent force. What do they say? In a one-on-one, always bet on Kaido. Land, sea, and air. You know, There's no way Kaido can go down. Even when there's no way. There's no way the strongest creature in the world. No way. You're not beating him. You just can't. Stride, there's no way you could take down him. It's too powerful. No one's coming. No one's beating Kaido. Just not happening. Now with the big pillar, everything, the dominoes begin to fall. And the world government realized that, which is why they wanted to take out Kaido. I mean, they wanted to take out Luffy and not Kaido. They want Kaido to remain where he is. Saw that Shanks was able to deal with Kaido, right? Because Shanks, with the balance, being the balance that he is, in the political aspect, understood what Kaido represented. You see? Now, there's the Western Dragon, which are the Celestial Dragons, which is a destructive force. We've seen it in so many pop culture and so much mainstream media about what a dragon is, the Western image. You see it in medieval literature and more, the hero slaying the dragon. The Western Dragon is very destructive. I don't even have to go, I mean, I can spend time on it, but y'all pretty much get the symbolism if you grow up. Most of us have grown up in the West. So we understand what it symbolizes. And we see what the celestial dragons do. They destroy everything about the celestial dragons, besides maybe the Gorosei and Emu, is destructive. You can't say it with anything. But that's also a force of nature. If you go into the Hindu views, right? The triumvirate, you you have Shiva being the destructive one, right? You had Vishnu being the preserver. Remember I mentioned about Kaido, East and West? And you had Brahma being the creator, right? Let's move on. Shanks is actually the northern dragon, and he represents freedom. Now, this, you would think dragon would be, right? Monkey D. Dragon would actually be the one that represents freedom. No, no, no. He represents something different, right? So Oda is slick with what he does. His designs and what he chooses to implement. You could say I'm looking too deep in it, but come on, man, this is Oda. At this point, you're saying I'm looking too deep in it. Come on now. Shanks's figurehead is a dragon. It's Norse. Obviously, people. I'm not the first to mention this, right? A lot of people say he's based on Norse mythology. They even say he's based on Tyr, the god Tyr, god of justice and war, right? Freedom. Shanks is all about freedom. And you've heard I say about the balance. Well, freedom needs parameters. Freedom, he's not about absolute freedom. But you can argue that Shanks is the most pirate-esque of all the characters in the entirety of One Piece. Look at his crew. And will be interesting to see what Film Red even further delves into that, right? And you see that Shanks was such a major impact on Luffy's life as a role model, right? So Shanks represents freedom. So what does Dragon represent? Primal. He's the Southern Dragon. He's the primal. He's that age old. Obviously, he's not ancient, but he's that one dragon that you see, whether in fairy, like if you ever read 100 Year Quest, post the main fairy tale story. There's that wood dragon that's just is like this old, ancient looking mug. He was huge in that. He had like 5 towns on various parts of his body. But anyways, it makes sense if you read the story. But it's that old wise dragon. Now you can say Kaido was old. It's that ancient knowledge. It's that dragon from before time memorial, excuse me. It's that prehistoric. It's that primal force. It's that primordial force coming back. And that's what dragon represents. He represents from a time long, 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 long ago. Now we'll get back to that later, but that is who dragon is. That's why he doesn't make sense in the present dynamic, because he doesn't fit. Because this is why he's so enigmatic, just as the past is enigmatic. Just as we have no real understanding of the past, we get glimpses, we might have a vague understanding, but that's why archaeology, history, and more, Ah, it's interesting. Nico Robin, and who, and I wasn't even planning on bringing this up, but who did he bring to him? He wanted Nico Robin. He has a Shandian tattoo. Shout out to my dog Wiper. He's a D. He represents that aspect, the primal aspect, the return to something long ago. It doesn't mean we're returning to them, but it's a return to the original state. And honestly, that's kind of what Luffy in a lot of ways is doing throughout the story that you can pinpoint in pretty much every kingdom that he liberates. We continue. Number 5, he's the product of his era. We're all products of our era in our own ways, some more than others. But what I mean in this case, because you can say, well, time out. Didn't you just say he's a representation of the primal forces, that he's an enigmatic representation of the past? He is. But there is a concept in Buddhism, duality. Taoism, duality. You could say that, I've talked about life itself as a paradox. I myself am a living paradox. The seeming contradictions in life, that makes sense. For example, in order for us to survive, unless you are a producer, you must kill to live. Seeming contradiction, but it makes perfect sense in practice. Dragon is the primal force, but the primal force molded by the conditions of his era. I can very much relate to that in my own personal life, and I'm not making this about me, but I'm very much like that, which is why this all resonated with me at this time of my life. The very nature of who Dragon's character actually is and what it represents and what Oda's going for, at least from my perspective. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. From every detail that Oda's given us about it, from all the hints of it, from all the hints of the history, Dragon knows. But he hasn't met up with Luffy. He doesn't impede on Luffy's journey. Now, I get on Dragon not raising his own son, but with all jokes or all that aside, it seems as if Oda is also saying by that non-relation between father and son, one of the most, if not the most important bonds you could possibly have, is that even with that, is that Luffy's very nature and Dragon's very nature cannot coexist. And if they can't coexist, then how the hell? Well, it seems that they can't coexist, but they're both products of their specific eras. Luffy's a product of his. Dragon's a product of his. Generational clash. Boom. Beautiful. In its own regard. And because he's a product of his era, Dragon is possibly drawing a different conclusion than what Luffy did. What did Dark King Silver's Rayleigh said? He said, even if I told y'all, being the Straw Hats on Sabaody, y'all will probably come to a different conclusion than we did. Dragon came to his own conclusion as the anomaly that he is. Number 6, created by fate itself. On some, you could say on some Anakin Skywalker status, yeah, and I would say on some Luke status. I do say they're a parallel because I don't think it was just Anakin that the Force created. I think Luke was created too, in his own regard. I would say the same thing about Dragon and Luffy. If Luffy is literally Fate's child, Dragon is Fate's child as well, the father and the son, right? So created by fate itself. What did Dragon say in chapter 100? At Logtown, whether he saved Luffy or not, whether fate intervened, whatever the hell that actually happened there, right? Ah, you're a pirate too. That's fine. And it talked about destiny, and it talked about the change. You know, Dragon always looking at East, Dragon interested in what his son does. Did get frustrated what Luffy did on Dressrosa. There is that, again, that clash of ideologies. Him being with saving Sabo and more. Fate is moot. Fate moot. You know, it's a predetermined path. For those who don't know, I personally am not a believer in destiny. As far as in fate, there is a path, but we make choices. And Dragon is a seeming counterbalance to Luffy, right? Both sides of the coin. Just like there's plenty of parallels in both sides of the coin. Kid is an opposite reflection of Luffy. Teach is an opposite reflection of Luffy. I would say Sir Crocodile is, all in different aspects. You could say Kaido is in his own regard, all in different aspects, right? So so is his father, Dragon. And being created by fate, well, he's obviously playing a pivotal role in turning it. Just like Anakin wasn't the only one. There's bring balance to the Force. You needed Luke. You needed Obi-Wan. You needed Mace Windu, Yoda, Darth Sidious, Count Dooku, and others. And Star Wars, if you know the series, the same thing. All of these major players that are moving in the new world and in the world of One Piece presently are all important to bring about what fate needs to be brought about to provide the dawn, the new era. Right. Number 7. He exists outside of the cultural paradigm in the Matrix. All right, here's where we start getting in really, really deep. So I alluded to it earlier that Dragon doesn't make sense in the series of One Piece. He just doesn't. As much as I love Oda, it's like, what the fuck? Why? Why is he even here? It's great that he is. It's fun that he is. It's cool, but I know it's frustrating for some of his fans. And I told people, I'm like, listen, this is not his story. It's not his story. Hell, if you were to write a story about Dragon, most people wouldn't read it. Why? Because most people, and I don't mean the espionage, I don't mean the spy kind of, no, 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 no. Most people don't want to go into the intellectual discussions. They don't want to go into the philosophical debates. They don't want to go into the study of the history. They don't want to go into the realities of war. And I don't mean on some kingdom stuff, the government. No, no, no. I mean directly as is. They don't want to go into the horrors of the world. Dragon is fighting all of that and fighting with that. And if you're talking about the history and such, he's a character. He's a man that realized the world for what it is. And I said it exists outside the Matrix. And I'll do videos on that. But if you know the Matrix, obviously the series, there was the red pill, the blue pill. And when I talk about that is a symbolism of our own world. Most people are stuck in the Matrix and they don't even realize it. And when I'm talking about the Matrix, I'm talking about the Matrix of society. Well, here you have a figure of Dragon who he's not playing any of those games. He's not playing the pirate games, even though it's grown folks games involved. He's not playing the Marines, Navy games. He's not playing the world government games. He's not just vying for political power with one of these kingdoms. He's not. He's literally attacking the system at large, which is why he's the world's most dangerous and most wanted man. Because he's literally upending or threatening to upend the entirety of the system. And not in a way that they can see coming. You cannot predict it. Hell, they couldn't even find him for the longest time. It took Jesus Burgess, of all people, to sneak onto a ship to literally bring in Admiral Teach, Blackbeard, Marshall D. Teach, and Cypherpole Aegis Zero to him. They didn't even know where he was located. Think about that. And then he pulled up in Kamabaka Kingdom in Ivankov's spot. Hell, Ivankov, Emperor Ivankov was in level 5.5. That shouldn't even have existed in Impel Down. He had the Tyrant Bartholomew Kuma as an op, as a Shichibukai implanted in the damn system itself. This is the level that we're talking about. This dude moves differently. It's as if you're playing a game of chess, and instead you got all the pieces, the pawns, the knights, the rooks, the bishop, king, queen, right? All of a sudden, you decide you want to throw on this wild card checker piece. That's Dragon. He the checker piece. And you just like, bro, what is this? He said, oh, you gotta, it's a wild card. What does it do? What it wants? What you mean? Is that random? Is this Kite's slaughter machine? What I mean, what are we doing here? Shout out to Hunter Hunter. But yeah, it's just the nature of his character, man. Is that Oda is slowly revealing other aspects, but you can't. You got to set up what the Matrix is. You got to set up what society is. You got to set up things as they are, which is why I think he took so long with Wano, really, to just show the despair, the really how fucked up the world really is presently. And it has been for a long period of time. But we continue. Number 8, Day of Reckoning. He symbolizes the Day of Reckoning. The rooster coming home to hatch. There's plenty of terms, but a Day of Reckoning. Keep fucking around, keep fucking around. You keep doing shit. And I mean, we're coming to that point in our own world. And again, I'm not trying to make this too political, but he really is a political character, so gotta bring it up, bro. He represent. You talk about the winds of change. I think he symbolizes more of this. I loosely said the winds of change, but his winds of change is a day of reckoning. It's like you've created this hurricane out there in the Pacific or the Atlantic Oceans. It was man-made, a man-made creation. And Mother Nature had to come back, fate had to come back and said, nah, fuck that shit, we out of here. We're gonna have to just blow it over, rain it out, whatever. Earthquake, tsunami, volcanic activity, tectonic activity, doesn't matter. We gotta get it on out of there. Send in a tornado, blow this motherfucker out of here, blow this bitch out of here, and let's implant a reset. He's a reset. That's what I mean, the primal force. The primordial force is coming to it. So he represents a day of reckoning. And it's just beautiful. It's beautiful symbolic writing. It really is. Luffy represents that one aspect of how it gets done. Dragon represents another. Moving on to that actual fact, number 9. Luffy's antithesis in regards to obtaining freedom. Now we can say that teaches his antithesis. You could argue that, but is he really? You could say that Kaido is his antithesis, but is he really? In a lot of ways, Doflamingo is his antithesis. But in the aspect of that, he literally contrasts. Their ideologies contrast. Control versus freedom. But this is freedom itself. And teaches us the opposite side of the coin. I wouldn't say he's the antithesis of Luffy. I wouldn't say Kid's the antithesis of Luffy. Neither is Kaido. They're all pirates, mind you. Notice that, right? Even though Flamingo is a pirate, Dragon isn't. Oh, they did that intentionally. So, from a political aspect, Luffy, it's not. Is Luffy apolitical? I would disagree with that. Luffy is not apolitical. It's just that Luffy is a very much. He is what he is. He's a pirate. He wants to roam the seas and da da da. Dragon is, and I say politics are us, what politics, and I can do another video on really what politics actually are. It goes beyond government. It's actually not government, it's not the state. Politics are us. Any social interaction between two or more individuals or groups. Okay. Dragon is literally addressing the political spectrum, the political structure of the world. And he said, listen, man, these Tenryubito, these celestial dragons, they need to go. We all recognize they need to go. Luffy's not innately attacking that. Dragon is. So Dragon's going after political structure. Luffy's just doing what he does out of his own free will, right? The militaristic aspect. Luffy's gaining military might, but that is not his objective. Never has been. That's why his crew's so damn small. Even though he has a grand fleet now, even though he's gaining allies and stuff in his wake, even though he's gaining support by various nations. Dragon went the completely militaristic route. Now, he's not straight up attacking the Marines and things of that nature, but he's also doing what Luffy's doing, but on the opposite end. The stuff that a lot of people like, they say, why don't Luffy does it? Because Luffy's a pirate. This is a pirate manga. Dragon's not a pirate. Dragon is a revolutionary. So he's very much being militant about his actions. All right. Number three, socially. Again, Luffy with his freedom loving self, both are freedom fighters. You're correct in that, assessment if that's your assessment. But socially, Luffy's just interacting, bro. He's just making friends and stuff. Dragon's coming in and knocking on them doors and said, yo, we're freeing the peoples just straight up, bro. We're bringing assistance. We're helping y'all. Look at Bello Betty's ability to cheer, to hype y'all up to free yourselves. Luffy's just coming in there like a force of nature and just literally punching his way through aspects, as well as befriending folks and changing minds that way. Dragon's like, yo, we're helping lift them collars, them chains off you. In a subversive way, we're stopping the weapons manufacturing and more. We're attacking these things that are causing these problems around the world. They're also upholding the system, right? It's also from a cultural perspective. Again, Luffy arrives on the scene, right? And he's just making waves as he's going through the waves. Dragon, on the other hand, is this obscure figure that moves in the shadows. So they affect the culture differently. Luffy is just this tall tale figure, this Pecos Bill, this Paul Bunyan, this Spartacus, this John Henry, right? While Dragon is this boogeyman, this man in the shadows that causes the world nobles to shake and quiver, that causes world leaders to shake and quiver at night. The name of Dragon. I mean, you see what Sakazuki's reaction. I think they were homies, but still. Your dragons. He was livid. Forget Roger. Dragon. Because everything Dragon represents, right? And lastly, in that aspect, from a strategic standpoint, Dragon is in a lot of cases what people want Luffy to be. Luffy not that. Luffy's a pirate. Luffy does what he does. Dragon makes moves. Neither one of them's wrong. It's just, I think their fighting genius is applied differently. If there's another fighting genius in the series, this is going to be Monkey D. Dragon. Maybe one other character, maybe a Kong or something like that, but maybe. But Luffy's presently the lone fighting genius. We'll see about Shanks too. But, I mean, Kaido just has a hell of a lot of experience. So does Lin, Garp, a Roger, a Rayleigh. I just don't consider them fighting geniuses from what we've seen. It's nothing against them. It's just the, the nature of their characters and stuff. But Luffy's a fighting genius. But Dragon's on the opposite end. While Luffy is a fighting genius on the instinctive side, if you know Wally from Hajime no Ippo, Dragon is that strategic fighting genius. He just picks you apart. And he just does it in ways that you might not even see coming. He's got traps after traps after traps after traps, right? And the only issue is that because Sabo acted recklessly, it's forcing his hand. Lastly, and probably the biggest point, and again, I alluded to this earlier, Dragon is a relic of an ancient time. Again, I've alluded to the Shandorian Tat. I've alluded to him being a primal force or a representation of the primal force. I've alluded to a lot of these things. And I want to leave off with this, right? Him being a link to a time before. And I don't even just mean Void Century. I mean the time of long, long ago. Long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away. Not quite that much. but I mean the moon people. I mean, it may be via Dragon that we understand a lot of shit. I don't even just mean Laugh Tale, because I don't think we're actually going to get everything. And again, we don't know all of the poneglyphs, but from what we know, I mean, this dude probably has visited O'Hara. He's visited Sky Islands. He's before we move, we have that window of like what 20 or so years between Roger's execution and when Dragon started moving. We have like 2 decades. What was he doing? He was probably learning. Dragon may have been to the moon. It's very, very possible. And Nell was able to make it there. Dragon may have been able to make it there. He's he's possibly read all of the poneglyphs, or most of them, anyways. And so when we deal with Dragon, this may be why Otis held off Dragon, like he's held off Rocks, like he's held off Emu, like he's held off Laugh-Tale. Is that when we meet Dragon, we're going to get the full scope of the history. And it's going to be very, very interesting. Luffy's response to that. It's going to be very interesting. Zoro. It's going to be very interesting. Nico Robin. And Usopp. Maybe Nami. There's certain characters on the Straw Hats. Of course, Jinbei as well. Um, Jinbei, Luffy, and Usopp have been represented. I added in Zoro for because of his lineage. Robin because of her dream, and Nami because it'll be very, very interesting with Nami as well. I think there's more to her character as well. Frankie, he's along for the ride. Sanji, he doesn't care as much. Chopper, it might help in Chopper's doctoring, if you will. Um, and Brooke probably knows some shit because Brooke always knows some shit that we don't know because he's so damn old. But but yeah, it'll be very, very interesting. And what did Dragon teach Robin already? We don't know because Robin hasn't talked about shit, which is actually irritating me sometimes. But whatever. Her and Brooke are hiding shit, and we need to know. But anyways, this video is long enough. Unexpected Wonder. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts. What did you think about Dragon? What are some of your thoughts on Dragon? What are some of your responses? What are some of your possible counterpoints? Do you think I'm off base, or do you think I'm right on the money by thinking that Dragon is Oda's way of introducing something entirely foreign to the series? And a lot of the greatest writers do this. A lot of the greatest authors, mangakas do this. I think of Gyro and Hunter x Hunter, where in a potentiality of a Dawn Freaks, like these just mysterious figures. Like what the hell? Um, I think of in I mean that was Melkor. I know he was the great evil if you're talking in the world of Arda and J.R. Tolkien's works, now the Silmarillion, but it talked about also the void in their creatures, like Ungoliant, that come from there, the great spider that there's no explanation for, Tom Bombadil and others, right? Um, I'm pretty sure in Star Wars there are creatures that don't really have an explanation. Star Trek and other series, DC and Marvel. I talked about the enigmatic figures, but characters like Phantom Stranger are just like, okay, we're just doing this now. And what it does is it adds in beyond world building, it adds in beyond the basic literary concepts. Not excitement, I don't think that's the right word for it, but it adds in beyond intrigue. It adds in a deeper layer that if you're left with, you remember. And you can't tell me that Dragon isn't one of the most memorable One Piece characters in its existence. And the beauty of it, he's barely been in the series. And he links to everything. Every goddamn thing. And it has me and so many others. So many people were pissed off that we pulled away from the Reverie. Partially because it deals with Dragon. It deals with that enigma. We want to understand the story. We want to know, who is this dude? What is he about? And how is he going to impact this One Piece world? I believe we're going to find that out very, very soon.